Here's some financial mistakes I regret from a financial planning and analysis professional. So, I work in financial planning and analysis. I literally do revenue modeling, forecasting, and long-term planning for a living. And despite that, I've made some absolutely preventable and cringe-worthy financial mistakes. Please don't tell my boss. So if you think that being good with money is some magically inherited trait like green eyes that you can never work towards, or if you think it means you never mess up, this video is proof that it's not true. Each of these mistakes cost me real money, real time, and a lot of times both. And if I can save you from even one of them, this video has done its job. But if this video does save you from making a financial mistake, hitting the like button and leaving a comment would be a really nice way to say thanks. And with that, let's get into it. Mistake number 1, going to college. Okay, well, specifically going to college without much of a plan and ultimately choosing the wrong major. When I was an undergrad, I changed majors a few times and landed on what I thought was a pretty broad assortment of majors, political science and communication. They were both broad, and I figured that with political science, I could then be a lawyer, right? They make good money. I thought this even though I had no experience working in a law firm, and I obviously didn't know the backbreaking labor entailed to become a lawyer, and more importantly, a lawyer that actually makes good money, versus a thankless, low-paid associate. But even outside of law, I figured that the majors were broad enough that I could use them in any job. But the thing is, they're not broad, they're vague. My undergraduate degree is as useless as a startup whose entire business model is scribbled on a bar napkin. It's problematically non-specific. Hiring managers don't intrinsically know what I actually learned in my undergraduate career. Therefore, my degree programs were basically useless. And it's not that learning the subject matter is inherently worthless, it's that the labor market places much more value in specialized education and easy to comprehend specific coursework, not theory and nebulous kind of conceptual learning. Despite being able to pay for my undergraduate degree exclusively with federal grants and scholarships, I do wish I would have used that golden opportunity to get an undergraduate degree that was worthwhile. Because once I got established in my career, I had to go back to school just to get an MBA in order to get the technical and financial skills that employers are actually looking for. So here's my honest advice. If you're going to college, go for something specific which has demonstrable job demand in the US. Things such as engineering, accounting, the health field, or hard sciences if you can slog through that. If you're not 100% sure of what you want to do and you're looking for something more quote-unquote broad, business is the least risky option because it has very obvious technical coursework that employers can understand. And if you don't fall into either of those buckets, college is probably not worth the cost. Broad, non-specific degrees like communication or political science are just really expensive ways to delay real job experience. Mistake number 2, not saving for retirement earlier. I didn't start saving seriously for retirement until I was 25. I assumed that I had plenty of time to save for retirement, and it didn't sound like it was too late, until you actually do the math. If I had started investing $200 a month at 18, assuming a 7% or so return, I'd be sitting on tens of thousands of extra dollars today, without doing anything differently. Meanwhile, my husband started a lot earlier than I did, and his retirement is absolutely dunking on mine, purely because of the compounding interest, something I promise you that he loves to brag about. If you don't think you have enough money to put away, believe me, you're wrong, because time is more powerful than income if you start early enough. Even if you put away just $50 a month into a retirement account, by age 65 that will have grown to $200,000 or more. And that's assuming that you don't ever increase that amount over time. You don't need to be rich early, you just need to start early. Mistake number 3, credit card debt at 18. Yes, like everyone else, I got a bunch of credit cards when I was 18 and I racked up $7,000 in credit card debt. It wasn't a totally wild amount, but it did take 7 full years to pay off. And here's the kicker. By the time that debt was gone, I didn't even have most of the things that I had bought anymore. The clothes were mostly gone because they were out of fashion. The food and drinks were long gone. The concerts and random experiences, mostly forgotten. And while I don't remember much of what the money bought, I definitely remember how painful it was to pay off. 7 years of payments for random purchases I barely even remember. But while the memories faded fast, the interest lasted long after the dopamine was gone. Credit cards feel like invisible money when you're young, and I definitely understand that. But if you let it get too far away from yourself, you'll dig yourself into a hole that will take many long and painful years to fully dig out of. Meanwhile, if you don't pay and take a credit hit, your 18-year-old self could be preventing your future self from getting a good deal on a car, from buying a home, or sometimes from even getting a job. Mistake number 4, never negotiating on job offers early into my career. For my first few professional type jobs, I typically accepted whatever offer they gave me because I was just grateful to be hired. The thrill of being the chosen one was just too exciting. Huge mistake. It is one of the lowest risk moves that you can make with the biggest upside. Every raise, bonus, and promotion after you're hired will be built on your starting salary. So if you rob yourself on the front end, you'll be getting all of that based on a lower number when it doesn't have to be. Once I finally started negotiating in my late 20s, I realized something important. I have never heard of someone losing a job offer for just politely asking for more money up front. And I've been on all sides of the equation. When asking for more money, I've both received it and not received it. And as a hiring manager, when I've been asked, I've been able to give it and not been able to give it. When I was successful, it may not always been what I asked for, but at least it was more than what was offered originally. And let me explain why this is very low risk. Because if you just politely ask for a reasonable kick and you give them a solid reason why, the worst case, they just say no. You're still their first choice candidate, and if you're just asking them to consider it with no pressure, but with sound reasoning, they're not likely to yank the offer just for that. They say that they can't, you tell them thank you for the consideration and when do I start. But best case scenario, you make thousands more each year. Just don't be weird about it. Ask professionally, give sound logic why, don't threaten them, and don't posture. And no one is going to tell you this, but most companies actually expect a bit of negotiation, especially nowadays. So never pass up the opportunity. Mistake number 5, spending money on designer items. Designer purchases feel amazing for about 5 minutes. Someone says, wow, nice bag, or hey, cool car, and your brain lights up like you just got 1,000 likes on Instagram. But just like social media, their serotonin is short-lived and very hollow. Most people don't care about your designer crap, and those who even do care a little are definitely not going to care after the first time they see it. They're going to compliment you once and then never think about it again. So the validation that you're seeking from external people is very short-lived. But the worst part, designer items like shoes and purses and cars are still just tools to use, yet people have arbitrarily assigned tons of superficial value behind it. And what I mean is that a purse is just a thing that you use to hold your keys and wallet and makeup and other crap while you're walking around. Shoes are just a thing that you wear to protect your feet from the outside world. Cars are just things that you use to get you from point A to point B. They're just tools to accomplish some sort of function or task. They're like hammers, only no one is rushing out to buy the Gucci hammer or a Louis Vuitton miter saw. Yet people put so much emotional weight behind designer crap. Why? Because they think it's filling some sort of void of validation. But ultimately, they're just very expensive versions of cheaper tools that you could be using. And that price tag also comes with an unintentional downside. The moment a makeup bottle explodes in your expensive purse, it is soul-crushing. Believe me on this. Not because the bag is actually special, but because it's too expensive to be treated with the same consideration as a normal object. So every little smudge, stain, scratch is something that you will spiral about. So if you think the price tag is worth the validation, is it worth the emotional distress every time something happens to it? Chasing status is just paying real money for imaginary approval, usually from people you don't know or you wouldn't ask real life advice from anyway. If the opinion of random strangers doesn't extend to how you would raise your kids, for instance, why should it extend to expensive purchasing decisions? And that's about it for the biggest mistakes that I regret. Being good with money doesn't mean never messing up. It means learning fast, minimizing the cost of mistakes wherever possible, and definitely never repeating expensive mistakes. If this video saved you from even one of these mistakes, then I've done my job, but you could thank me with a like or a comment. That's all I have for you today. Let me know what you think in the comments. What are the biggest financial mistakes you've made? And if you like this content, be sure to subscribe for more.